Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Auntie Margie's story time. Today's story is The Hollow Pie. Robert had a very bad habit of always taking the biggest and best of everything for himself. His brothers, Charlie and Ted, would call him all sorts of names for doing it, but that didn't seem to make any difference. Mother was very sorry about it too, especially since Robert always disgraced the family by his greediness when they were invited out to eat. What could be done? Mother talked the matter over with her sister, who lived on the next street. A few days later, the boys were delighted to receive an invitation to dinner from their auntie. Remembering all the good things they had enjoyed there in the past, they looked forward to the party. At last, the day came, and dinner time arrived. The table was piled with good things. Robert looked longingly at the cupcakes, jellies, small pies, and chocolate candy. "Oh my," he thought, "if only I could do something about this all by myself." He looked at the wonderful spread of tasty dishes and made up his mind which of them he would choose when they were passed around. Everybody sat down, and dinner began with bread and potatoes and greens in the usual way. But Robert soon got tired of that. He looked at the plate of small pies. He wanted that biggest one. Would he get it in time, or would Charlie get to it first? The pies were passed around. Charlie and Ted took the small ones and opened them. "Oh, what wonderful centers they have," thought Robert. "Now, if only I can get that big one." Robert's turn came. The biggest pie was still there, and he took it eagerly. But what a disappointment! As he cut through the top, the whole pie collapsed. It was hollow. Poor Robert! Tears filled his eyes, but no one seemed to notice what happened. He ate the crust as bravely as he could and said nothing. The cupcakes were passed around. Robert thought he was quite justified in taking the biggest this time, since there had been nothing in his pie. But something seemed to be wrong with his cake. It looked okay on the outside, but the center was bitter. What can be the matter, thought Robert. Auntie was such a good cook, and the others didn't seem to be having any trouble at all. It isn't fair, thought Robert, but he didn't dare say anything for fear that the others would laugh at him. Nobody seemed to notice Robert's unhappiness, and no one passed him anything to make up for his bad luck. In fact, the others all seemed to be thoroughly enjoying themselves. Next came the chocolate candy, and by this time, Robert was getting desperate. "I'll have to make up for lost time by taking those two big beauties in the center," he said to himself as he removed the two largest, best-looking pieces of candy from the plate. "Oh!" said Robert, groaning inwardly and blushing all over with disappointment. "Oh, what a horrible taste!" Swallowing one with difficulty, he tried the other to take the taste away, only to make it worse. On the way home, Charlie said something to Robert about what a splendid dinner they had had. "Splendid what?" said Robert. "Well, I thought you weren't enjoying yourself," said Charlie. "You looked uncomfortable. What was the matter?" "Matter," said Robert. "Everything I took was bad. Even took what looked best every single time." "Maybe that was the problem, Robert," said Charlie knowingly. "I think if I were you, I'd leave the biggest and best looking things for somebody else next time." That night, Robert stayed awake quite a long time. There were two reasons. One was a pain under his pajama top, and the other was the advice that Charlie had given him. He put two and two together, and at last he decided that the best and safest course for him would be to follow Charlie's suggestion in the future. Well, boys and girls, that's it for our story today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.